Hello and welcome to a special bonus edition of the Test Drivers. Not only are we in video today, but we have a very special guest.
We are very excited to be joined by Panos Panay, who is the Chief Product Officer at Microsoft for both Windows and devices. And of course, we're going to be talking about Windows 11.
Look, you've had a long morning.
Chilling with the test drivers. This is great.
I think one of the big questions, especially kind of looking at how the event went, is the design, right? Windows 11, obviously it's a new name, but it's a very different look. I'm curious, where did that look come from? Is it something that was, I think there's some talk about how a lot of this development work was done, during the pandemic, and obviously that was a challenging kind of thing, but kind of where did this new look for Windows really come from?
There's a couple ways to think about it. Think about this. Products are a reflection of the people that make them. All right. That almost sounds like a canned line, but that's how the team and I talk. And I'm so proud to work for this team or with this team. As we created Windows 11, a big part of it, you're right. You nailed it, Austin. Like this is done through the pandemic at the end of the day. I mean, and before, but ultimately influenced so much. And when you're designing a product, you've got to go look for, what are the things you're trying to accomplish? What are the things that matter most? You have to understand what are your customers' needs. So you go through these cycles of what are you trying to solve for? What is the need of the customer? And then it's unbelievable levels of iteration because the design points for this product were, it's going to sound almost funny, but the words that were really anchoring was, the first word was calm. Not interesting. Like in this world, like it's so chaotic. Like how do we bring a system that's calm, one that flows, one that's delightful to use? And the idea, it wasn't about connecting you to your tech. It was about connecting you to the things that you love most. And so when you have that principle for customers, and I get it, it probably sounds super cheesy, but it's true. Like that's where we were. And now you start getting into the softer edges, the right light that moves through the product, the things that we can actually measure the brain as people use the product and see where are the delighters, where do people feel good. It turns out when you guys are having fun, you're better at creating than when you're not. It just turns out. It's not hard to understand that concept. Let me just think of the last time you were pissed off and you created something beautiful and versus the time you were inspired and you created something beautiful. It's going to be a lot easier to find the inspired portion of that. Don't get me wrong. I guess some people work angry really well, but the idea that you feel good when you're doing what you're doing, you get at your best. I talk about it getting into your flow. And so, whether that was playing a sport, writing code, writing a document, inspiring, writing a love letter, whatever it might be, that's all creating, right? And for you guys, a podcast here, like when you're in your best state, I can imagine if I'm sitting here with a miserable look, you're like, how's this podcast going to go? And let's just take that same human principle. If products are a reflection of the people that make them, like, all right, so how much are we going to put into this product that people can take out? And that's where the design comes from. I know that sounds like that's a bit theoretical. I can get very tactical, like rounded corners, the way the light moves, the colors, bloom. This image right here, this is actually my Surface Hub on running on Windows 11. And like, I can get into the details of how quick settings pops, which is just rad, by the way. And like, there's so many little things, but all of them come together in this design to basically bring you a sense of calm, to bring a sense of delight. And so when you get in, and you're ready to go kill it, work hard, design, dream, create, and the technology gets out of your way. And so a big part of this was also centering it. And that's my last comment, and I'll stop. But you think, because I can go for now, you got me. I can go for about 3 days. And I think my team would say it like, can you not ask these questions? Because now we have a 40-minute lecture or whatever.
It's your baby. You're proud of it.
So true. I am proud of it. Like, I'm so proud of the team. Like part of my, what I believe in most is this team that creates. I'm so proud of them. But yeah, it is my baby. It's like, and then the collection of all these features are the combination of this great product. And then centering start was a thing. Like, there was an analogy we talked about, like, centering yourself almost. Like, how do you get centered? And like, let's just bring it all here, right where you're engaging, right where you're doing what you need to get done. And then, magic happens.
So things like centering start, which is actually a phrase that I really enjoy, it really feels like a lot of that thought went into making, and you spoke about it in the presentation, Windows adaptable to different types of devices and touchscreen devices. Some of this stuff felt pretty reminiscent of Windows 10X, which was something that you previewed a while back. Did the pandemic change the course of development here? where you ended up taking some of these ideas and saying, you know what, this actually is our next full version of Windows?
Yeah, like what's the right thing for our customers, is another way to say it, in this time of change. Like you have to think that way. I had this thing 2.5 years ago was the right thing, and then all of a sudden, times change. You're like, I don't care. I'm still going to do what I thought was right 2.5 years ago. Like I can't. Like we have to evolve for our customers, and we have to grow, but we have to stay familiar. I mean, I tried to use an analogy today. If you watch the event, it sounds like you did, which is awesome. I think I use the analogy of home because it was so important. Like whatever's home to you is different, but for me, like it's maybe my home has changed over time. My parents still live in their house, by the way. I just flew there last weekend. It was a dream to hang out with my dad. He's 88. It's a thing, emotional thing for me. And my mom. I get in trouble. I always say my dad, and then I get in trouble.
You never mentioned me.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. It's so tiring. I'm sorry, Mom. If you listen, she won't. Maybe she will actually. She like stalks me. The idea that we have to evolve, but we have to stay familiar was a big part of this. And yep, we took a lot of inspiration from the work we've already done on 10X, but actually we took more inspiration for the way people work, the way people are producing, connecting with each other right now. And you'll see that throughout the product. And as the times change through the pandemic, I mean, we designed this product in the pandemic, think through the pandemic, I should say. And that's the thing. And team's pretty proud of that, and it should reflect in the product itself. And it take those original design principles of calm and, the seamless integration, these transitions, the fluidity of the sound, the light, all of it that flows through, the materials, all of it's real. And then you tie it to what do people need to get done, and then centering start to your point. Yeah, it took inspiration from a lot of places, but one of them was, how are we acting right now? How are we behaving right now? What do we need to get done? How has it changed? And I think respectfully, it's changed for a lot of people over the last 2 years in many different ways. And we reflect quite a bit on that. It's a great question, but it's actually super meaningful to me to even think about it as we talk.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue to, I think, one of the other big announcements and one of the big sort of focuses, which is Teams. So it seems like there's a much deeper integration of Teams and Windows. And I'm curious, I mean, that seems, I guess, from the outside, like that very much seems like it's because of the pandemic that obviously people are connecting more and more, of course, in lots of ways, but especially when it comes to video. But it almost does seem like, do you expect that Teams is almost going to be potentially like kind of one of the default communications sort of methods for a lot of people? Because how do you see Teams as it's been evolving over the last couple of years and going forward into being fully integrated into Windows?
A way to think about it is take the tech out of the picture for just a minute and take what the goal is. And the goal is to connect humans to each other. It's quite simple. Like, hey, I want to connect to the people I love, or the people I know, or the people I need to connect with. And, through the pandemic, what you saw happen, Austin, was the PC was something that we fit our lives, that basically we were fitting the PC into our lives, versus now we're fitting our lives into the PC in many ways. I mean, look at us right now. And if you just take that little element of what do people need right now, like, well, how is it easier to connect with somebody? How do I find somebody? And one of the things we really wanted was, okay, front and center, one touch, go. And it doesn't matter where you were, Austin. If you were in your car, if you were, and don't look at your phone when you're driving. That's not what I mean. But it, depending on what device you're on, where you were on the planet, and Windows connects over the entire planet. Well, but it should just be seamless to connect with somebody. And now, then ask the next question. Like, the Teams integration can create that seamless engagement, even direct to phone, direct to tablet, direct to iPad, direct to anything. And more so PC to PC. There's two things there. There might be a different application you want to use. Okay, awesome. You know what I mean? Like, you use WhatsApp, you use Zoom. That's awesome. Like, that's what Windows does. But ultimately, what I want to do as a product maker, or as like we try and do as a team, and the Teams and Windows coming together, is how do we just make it easier for people and give them another avenue to go one touch connect and go. And I think it's inspiring to know you can connect humans and not think about the technology. Like, that matters. And so when you talk about what matters to a team, that's what matters. Now, how do you perfect the tech? How do you get it so it's seamless? How do you make it so, like when if we hand you a product and the product breaks, then you don't actually connect with the person you cared about. I'm pretty sure the whole principle falls on its face. And so now it's all about that seamless integration and making it simple. And we think right now with that integration point of Teams and Windows, that'll come to life pretty nice for people.
From the outside, from an outsider's perspective, and especially with the branding and stuff, like Teams initially felt like a business tool. It's the way for teams of people to come together. But like basically every other tool during the pandemic, it all got upended, right? Zoom was the same, right? Like Zoom was a corporate communications platform. And now people use it, and they use Teams, and they use these things to get their families together for cocktail evening. And definitely looking at the way that Teams was integrated in, and the way that you showed it off during the presentation, there was a lot of emotion, there was a lot of families. Do you envision going forward Teams as much as a personal communication platform as a professional one?
100%. You nailed it. And actually, nobody could have said it better than you just did. I'm serious. You referenced the history. That was impressive. Like, yeah, but what did we learn through the pandemic? Like, sure, it started as a business tool in many ways, but ultimately, in connecting in meetings and finding a way. But now that evolution is so important. This is what we're talking about. So the answer is, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Like, let's connect as people. And you think about the customers of Windows. There's so many different ways to slice it and think about it, whether you're commercial, enterprise, school, end user, developer, pick your persona. At the end of the day, connecting people is it. And now it's at a more personal level, if you will. It doesn't have to be tied to business. It doesn't have to be tied to work. It just has to be tied to another human, or multiple. Yeah. And so the depth of the Teams platform shows up, but as well as its simplicity in the way it's kind of instituted within Windows now.
So another one of the big things that was really kind of brought up in the event is the idea of Windows as an open platform, which has always been the case. I don't think this is like news to anyone that like Windows is sort of the most open place, but there's some major new things that you've kind of done to really push this farther in that direction. So not only can developers use their own payment system and still be on the Microsoft Store, which just seems like a very
nobody else is doing it, Austin, I think is what you're looking to say.
Yes, thank you very much for that. But I'm really curious, what went into the decision there, and kind of how does that reflect on the developer community, who's obviously massive on the Windows side?
Yeah, this will shock you. We were just focused on the customer. It wasn't like a hard. Somebody like, so what? Like, what? Tell me the strategy. Like, strategy? Oh, making sure customers got what they needed out of the store, making sure developers could build their platforms on our platform. Like, that's what it's about.
Yep.
And again, take customers, end user, finding the right app, because a developer built their business by building the right app. Those are two different ways to look at the same kind of opportunity, if you will, for people. And if you just go back to that, like, that was it. It is. I know we can make it more complex, but at the end of the day, Satya said it really well today. He said it really elegantly. A platform for platform creators. What does that mean? It means this: if you're, a dev with a great idea and you want to be found, create an app for, for the Microsoft Store, and we'll do our best to help. That's really what it comes down to. And if we can, if people can use Windows to create their own platforms, if people can use Windows to make their own businesses, it's just a dream. It's a dream. It's just awesome. And that's what went into it. And we're proud of it for sure. And you bring your own commerce engine, go for it. Like, build your business, invest in your business, do what you need to do. I don't want to be in your way. And then for the end user, imagine what that does. It's a more secure way to get your application. There's more applications for you. The applications matter. It seems pretty dang cool. So, like, the idea behind it is that I'm not trying to trivialize it at all. It's not simple to implement, but it is important. That's what we want. We want to help developers build their business. And that's a way to say it. Same time, I want users to be able to create. Those are one and the same thing, if that makes sense. Like, to create, you need great apps. And so it is it's a good cycle. It's a good cycle for Windows, is what I'd say. It's pretty. It's a cool thing. I hope developers are excited. And I think I said something in the show. I think I called developers my hero, because I mean, at the end of the day, they are like, I can't do what they do. And it's incredible when somebody writes a great app and then somebody else creates something great with that app. Oh my gosh, like that's creativity at its finest. Like it's a full circle. Like it's awesome. So is fun to be able to talk about it today for sure.
The platform for platform line that you mentioned, and Satya mentioned, is such a fascinating thing, and I love the way it sounds, and I love what it means. And I think just going off that again, like to go back to what you were saying about what's great about an app store is when you can find all the apps that you want. And mobile platforms have the advantage of they began with app stores. So the only place you could get the apps is in app stores. But in platforms that have been around for longer, apps have been distributed. And so, I'm kind of saying two different things now, because now I'm all excited. You're getting me all excited about it now. But like, I really love this idea from a customer perspective and developer perspective for Windows now of like, look, we have made it so no matter who you are, what you do, you can put your app on the store. We're not going to tell you how to run your business. And then customers can rely on this one place to go to. So like these two ideas, they seem really great.
Yeah, I hope so. Like, I believe they are. Opportunity for customers, and you nailed it. Like, again, you've done this. You do my job for me at this point. Like, it's twice now. So I would just say you're right. It's the fundamentals are, developers can build their business and customers can get great apps to go create on. And remember what we're doing with Windows 11. We're bringing you closer to things you love, which means like, how do I get you into your best place to create, get you the most information you could have, the best information you can have, and then get into your most creative flow. I think that's the thing where it all kind of comes together in my mind. And as I think about it, maybe it doesn't make perfect sense for anyone except for me. I don't know. Thinking about it out loud, but
it makes sense to me.
Okay, good. Thank God.
So the other side of it is, of course, Android apps, right? I think that was definitely the moment during the keynote. I stood up, I was like, whoa, what? Wait, say that again? I'm super curious. So first of all, what is the user experience for Android apps, and kind of what was where did the idea come from to sort of bring this into the Windows ecosystem? I'm super fascinated on kind of like what went on behind the scenes to make this actually happen.
Well, that would take a couple years to explain. So we start there. I mean, that was a ridiculous ask. I can't get to the whole thing, I promise you. For sure, there's nothing simple about it, but in implementation and how and process. But I will tell you, the theory is fairly simple. There's a couple of ways to think about it, but ultimately get you all the apps that you want. It's same idea of, and I kind of talked about it in the show today, but whether it was a PWA, progressive web app, a UWP, or a Win32 app, or an Android app, it shouldn't matter. What does a developer want to build for people to use? That was the trick in that conversation today. Not a trick, but that was the trick to read into. Like, it didn't matter what application you were building. Like, you could pick what is it that you love to do, how you love to write your app, what you want to, like how native, if you want to go all the way down and into, or you want to, lightweight app, deep app, like you pick. But what are the right apps for customers? And one of the things, like, think about the idea of leaning back on your couch. You saw Windows is adaptable, right? Windows 11 has this kind of adaptive feature where the taskbar gets slightly larger, the touch targets get bigger once you get into a tablet mode. Now all of a sudden you're in this elegant posture, you're centered. Okay, well, isn't an Android app perfect for that? And so you just kind of think about, what does a customer need? How do we deliver it? And that's one thing. And then there's just the cascade of how that decision gets made is different, and how you implement it is different. It takes many companies to come together to do it. So we were inspired because at the end of the day, the end user, the person, the human on the other side of it, is going to take amazing benefit. And the other side of that was what really mattered to us, as you ask it. Like, Austin, you think about it's not just an app glued into the system. It's integrated into the taskbar, into Start, into windowing. You saw the windowing models today; they're really rad. I mean, the new windowing models are. I can't tell you, they've changed my workflow. They really have. It's crazy. It's so fun. They're so fun. They're addictive. That and the widgets are addictive. Like you just get in and you're like, oh my God, this is great.
Yeah, we were freaking out about all the layouts and the grids, like the snap stuff. It really looks like such a great way to multitask.
It's cool. And then you can always get your way back to it. So like kind of that analogy of home, like you always find your way back. Like at the end of the day, like set up that window and then all of a sudden you want to get back to it, you just click and you're back. It's just cool. And then Android apps fits into that. Like that integration point, that was a really important part of the design. And, it'll be a while before people use Android apps, like before it's released. The product comes out in holiday next year or this year. So you're talking about the fall, but that work is continuously ongoing. It's incredible work between, what I would say is Amazon, Intel, Microsoft all coming together, works across all platforms. I was asked the question before, works amazing, with AMD, Qualcomm, Intel, like that variety of devices you could pick from. It's a great story for our customers.
So shifting gears a little bit to, I think, what I guess was probably your earlier baby, which is Surface. Obviously, the Surface, I mean, you guys have been cranking Surfaces out for a number of years now. And I'm always just kind of curious, especially kind of talking with you, how do you see Surface and like sort of how does that fit into the design of Windows? And how do you think about Surface and developing Windows? Like I always kind of think about it from the perspective of like how, like if Google has like the Pixel line, right? Like obviously they create Android's used on a number of devices, but a lot of times they'll kind of use Pixel as kind of like the Halo, device. They want to kind of use it to kind of make like the ideal version. How do you think about Surface when it comes to developing Windows? Do you like think about like, oh, we're gonna make this great product, oh, but no one's done it, we're gonna put this in Surface first? Or I'm just kind of curious about like sort of your mentality on how you kind of balance out the Surface and the Windows sides of the house.
At the end of the day, like what you want is end-to-end seamless design between hardware and software. That's what you need to make great products for people. It doesn't just start and end with Surface. It actually, all the OEMs have do an incredible job of thinking, okay, here's how we bring the device, the silicon, and the software together end to end. Surface plays a unique role for sure in its own way because, if it can lead with technology, but the whole idea is what technology can be created that can make it across the entire Windows ecosystem, which that matters. And so you can see you have to think in product making, whether it's HP, Dell, Lenovo, Asus, Acer, Samsung, like these are incredible brands and they make incredible products and they have an end-to-end look on these product lines. And, as Windows, we vertically stack, if you will, it's a different way to say it, with each partner where we can go create the end-to-end product that's right for their customers and for our customers. Surface plays a role similar, but also kind of adds we do as much tech as we can, but it actually plays a role where it says, and as we complete that tech, how do we get it all the way into Windows so every partner can also use it? That matters. And so it kind of plays both roles, like the end-to-end product, but also, there's an incredible Surface team here. They do great work. I could talk about my teams all day. I get so proud, but we also have this incredible team that works with all the OEMs, and each one of them is to make sure that these end-to-end products come to life, in amazing ways. And remember, worldwide, like globally is the right word. And so the more we can get that tech flywheel going and get it into Windows and get it through all devices, the better off our customers are. And that's kind of the filter I use. Incredible team, by the way. I'm so proud of what that team can do. And obviously, I've spent a pretty good portion of my career here at Microsoft, either doing mice, keyboards, Microsoft hardware, Surface. And so it's emotional.
Special place in your heart.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt. And it's still, yeah, come on.
Of course.
Like from Windows to Surface, like these are my, this is my kids will tell you, like there's a debate. I love my kids. I love my kids. My kids are everything to me, but they will tell you that's BS, Dad. your products or your team. Your team is as important as I. Like, it's pretty interesting. Like cycle. I'm so blessed. My children are so. My Mary and my wife and the children are just so incredible. They're so supportive, but they do make fun of me. Like they Surface and Windows are my extended family. There's no question. Like, it's part of the DNA at this point.
You bring home that new Surface and like, wait, can you guys look? I finally can show you. I've been working on it.
If I told you how many devices I had in the house from all my partners to Surface, like, I don't even know. Like, oh my gosh.
Speaking of products, maybe looking into the future a little bit. So over the last year or so, we've been talking on the show a lot about ARM and personal computing, which seems to be something that's really starting to kick off and accelerate. And I know that prior to 11, there has been a version of Windows on ARM, which has been available in certain circumstances. But my understanding is that Windows 11 is built for ARM as it is for x86. I wanted to kind of get your feeling now about whether you consider that we're in a bit of a changing landscape with ARM architecture, and what you think that could look like into the future, and if you have a strategy that you're playing to with that.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple ways to think about it. One, you're right, Windows 11 built for ARM, but not just ARM. I think that's what's important. Like, silicon diversity, I believe, is super important. Back to the open platform. Like, customers having a choice means everything to me. But perfecting Windows on the silicon that we build it for is also incredibly critical. And so you have to think, like, our partners, very clear, AMD, Intel, and Qualcomm, and we work incredibly well with all three. They're amazing, all three amazing companies, and their silicon roadmaps are, they're incredible. And so, specific to ARM, for sure, like, that stack is critical. I love my ARM devices that I use today. My daily driver is an ARM device, but of course I could probably say that about a lot of different daily drivers I use, so it's maybe unfair. But at the end of the day, what that technology brings is another choice for our customers, and ultimately some incredible, you can imagine. I got to be careful of how I talk about the future. But I will tell you, between all three silicon suppliers are doing incredible work, and Windows is here to support all of them, and not just in like some way that's like we support, but literally do incredible stuff with what AMD does with Ryzen, what Intel does with its product lineup, what Qualcomm does with its product lineup, and like we are all in on all three, and that ultimately leads to great choice for our customers, including our OEMs and partners. Like, build the right device for the right customer and worldwide. And that is an important part of Windows and an important part of our product lineup moving forward.
So that was a chat with Panos. And of course, huge thank you to Panos for having the time in his very, very busy Windows 11 launch day to chat with us. But that was really cool.
Yeah, and also thanks to everybody at Microsoft that helped set us up, because I don't think he manages his own calendar, I'm going to assume. So thanks to everyone who made that happen for us. It was really great.
So if you enjoyed this, make sure to not only subscribe here to the Test Drivers channel on YouTube, but also subscribe to the Test Drivers podcast, wherever you have your fine podcast player pointed. But of course, we'll have all the links you need in the description.
Yeah, go to relay.fm/testdrivers, because also in the podcast episode, in the audio, we're going to be giving more thoughts around Windows and also talking about E3 a little bit as well. So go check it out.